Welcome to the Age is Irrelevant podcast with your host, Helen Fritsch. Helen is a 60-plus, lifelong competitive athlete, flight attendant, published fitness model, writer, IFBB bodybuilding pro, and certified wine specialist who believes that your age is irrelevant to pursue goals, dreams, and desires. Are you a woman in her 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond who still has a burning desire to pursue a dream or a passion? Are you thinking about starting a new chapter in your life, but you're hesitant, thinking that you might be too old or just don't know where to begin? The Age is Irrelevant podcast is a podcast devoted to women who want to defy the odds, smash barriers, and redefine happiness and success after 40. It's time to make a difference. There is no need to dread blowing out that added birthday candle every year. A new movement is slowly taking momentum, where being over the hill just isn't relevant anymore. Age labels are being thrown out the window, and women are rediscovering the strength within themselves to make a difference, not only within their own lives, but also touching and inspiring the lives of other women. Join Helen as she and her guests discuss all aspects of aging after 40 and how to make the aging process and those twilight years more rewarding, exciting, and fun.
Hello and welcome to the Age is Irrelevant podcast. I'm your host, Helen Fritsch, and this is episode 101. I had so much fun in this conversation today. If you are a sci-fi fan, if you loved Star Trek, if you loved Babylon 5, if you are a soap fan, if you watched Night of the Living Dead, and if Jurrasic Park was one of your favorite all-time movies, then you're going to love my conversation with 66-year-old actress, stunt performer, studio executive, and best-selling author, Patricia Tallman. What a fun conversation we had. I was really pretty stoked about having Patricia on my show because I really wanted to have a stunt performer, specifically a stunt woman, on my show. And with her being the same age as me, we were able to go back and talk about things in the day. And that'll be very reminiscent in the very beginning when we were talking about Dark Shadows, if anybody remembers being a big Dark Shadow fan, which was so fun. Hearing everything that she went through to, train for and prep for a specific role. Some of the highlights of the conversation was, that she found her success because she became teachable and she was able to, go with the flow. And that even through all her dark times, she was able to reinvent herself to be bigger and better. And today she's extremely happy. And one of the greatest things about the conversation was that I was in Syracuse, New York on a layover in a hotel, and she is in Australia doing an event. So I really hope you enjoy this conversation. Super fun, lots of really great, profound conversation, very memorable for me. I think she'll be a friend for life. And here we go. I do want to apologize for the first 30 seconds or so of the interview. It's a little jarbled. I'm not really sure what happened, but everything smooths out. Thanks. Hi, Pat. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm a big fan of yours, so I'm honored to be.
Oh, that's amazing. And for my listeners, I am speaking to, she's the same age as me. I'm excited about that. And I know you can't see her, but she looks amazing. I'm speaking to Pat Tallman. Now, Pat is an American actress, stunt performer, and studio executive. In television, she worked on the soap opera Generations. As an actress and stunt performer, she worked on 50 episodes across the Star Trek franchise. She played Lyda Alexander in the Babylon 5 series pilot, recurring in seasons 2 and 3, and starring in seasons 4 and 5. In 1993, her most notable stunt work came as a stunt double for Laura Dern throughout the Steven Spielberg Jurrasic Park. She's played your bio is just so intensive. That's absolutely amazing. I'm just picking out things here and there. You've done voice roles, and we're going to get into all the nitty gritty in a little bit. You starred as Barbara in the remake of Night of the Living Dead, which is really exciting for me when I saw that. And you're also the leading fundraiser for Penny Lane, which is Center for Abused Children in California. And you also love helping people release their inner badass by leading epic quests to live their dreams of adventure and creativity. So again, Pat, thank you so much I mean, you're in Australia right now. So, I'm in Syracuse, New York on a layover. But thank you so much for spending a little bit of your time with me. So I always like to start off asking my guests to talk about their childhood, where they were born and raised, and interests and stuff like that. So let's just start there.
I was born in Pontiac, Illinois, and a very, very tiny, small cow town in the middle of central Illinois. And I think one of the things that to me kind of stands out about creativity and being a child is that we really need to pay attention and go back to that when we're adults. We get so busy, don't we? We get so busy with life, and you're trying to create a career. And then if you're raising a family, you're doing that, and you kind of lose touch. But as a child for myself, I was acting. I was creating plays. I was really into music and dance, just being silly, nothing serious whatsoever. But I was fascinated by the original Star Trek series that my father watched. Back in those days, I mean, as you remember, we watched TV when it was on, and we watched what was on. That was it. We had no choice. No VHS, nothing, It was just a few channels. And when Dad came home, everybody watched what Dad wanted to watch, right? And so he loved Star Trek. It was the original series with William Shatner. And I was fascinated by it. The other show I loved, which was on when I would come home from school, was called Dark Shadows.
I love Dark Shadows.
Right?
I loved it. Oh my God,
Okay.
I loved it. We used to play Dark Shadows, like out.
Yes.
And my parents finally just ended up forbidding us to play Dark Shadows. They were like, we were over this. They're not playing Dark Shadows anymore. But we used to go outside and just play Dark Shadows. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So that's what we did too. My cousin and I, we had a Barbie and a Francie doll, and we would make costumes for them. And they'd either be Star Trek, because that was one of them, or Dark Shadows. And we would fight over who could be Angelique. And, we just had the best time. It was so good. But I don't think that it's any coincidence that I ended up in the sci-fi and horror genres as an actor, and then continuing into my stunt career. So plus it is something that still gives me joy. My husband and I, we travel around. We love to go to locations. One of the things I did with my New Zealand trip was I led people from the top of the North Island all the way to the South Island, following the Lord of the Rings. Everything in the Lord of the Rings, we went to everything. We talked to people. We did all the things. It was so fun. But that's because I'm still a big nerd, and I love that stuff. It gives me joy. So never lose touch with your joy. Never lose touch with what gave you joy as a kid. There's something there that's uniquely you, and it's supposed to be there.
Right. Yeah. And so when you went to high school, then you obviously, if you're acting that young and had all that inspiration, all that creativity as a child, I'm sure you took it straight into school, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I definitely got into the drama. I was in the dramats. We were in the drama department. We had so much fun. It was all the kids. We were all square pegs that didn't fit into the round holes. We were all odd and unusual, and formed a strong bond. I'm still friends with a couple of my friends from high school today. Yes. So on the stage, on the boards, that's where I really discovered, okay, I want to be in the theater. And when it came time to choose a focus and perhaps go to college for it, I chose acting, and I went to Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, where I met more friends that I'm still friends with. In fact, I'm married to one of my friends from those days. But yeah, so high school was kind of a challenging time for a lot of people. Certainly was for me. And what got me through it was being part of that crazy, wacky group of people that wanted to make costumes and put up, paint backdrops and pretend we were somewhere else.
Right. No. I agree. And I actually had friends who were also in the drama department, and I loved going to their play. I loved going to the high school
Oh,
plays. I did.
oh. See, now that's you are a good friend. You're the kind of friend we all want to have that supports us in whatever it is wacky thing that we're doing. I was also into music. I played viola in the orchestra and I was in the choir, but none of that really stuck. The acting stuck. I mean, the love of music, of course, you carry with you your whole life.
Right.
But yeah, acting was,
Right.
yeah. I love that. I love that.
So tell us about your first job, like your first gig as an actor.
My first paying job, I was 15 and I did some, let's see, I think it was called A Gentleman and a Scoundrel was the play. It was dinner theater. And I don't know if anyone has ever experienced dinner theater anymore these days, but in those days, people had dinner while they were watching a play.
It was great. I loved it.
Oh, it was fun, but it was also really noisy, right? Because people are eating and they're kind of talking and it was a real challenge, but I thought, wow, this is a really amazing thing for me to be able to do, to be on stage and be able to move through the distractions and the noise and still get people feel connected to the audience and keep them connected to me. It was a comedy, which makes it easier.
Right. That's great.
Yeah,
So
it was fun.
as you continued on now, how exactly when you started, I mean, you said this earlier that you were kind of focusing down the sci-fi lane. So was that always your intent to go down there, or did you play a well-diversified roles of different characters?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're starting out, you do whatever you can, and wherever it's not easy getting jobs. So it's not like you can be choosy. Um, the only thing I chose is if something offended me, right? Or if they wanted me to get naked, or something like that. Then I definitely had an opinion. But for the most part, I was just very lucky to work in all kinds of shows. And then what happened was, and this is where I feel like the universe steps in, right? That is that focus or that manifestation principle that we get to. If you're really loving and loving something, and you're in the flow of something, you bring to you what you love, or you bring to you what you're focused on. You make more of that. And so, I mean, I didn't know this at the time, but when the opportunity to audition for this TV series Babylon 5 came along, I read the script, which nowadays most actors don't get to do. So they gave us the whole script to read. It was outrageous. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is so good. This is going to go to a star. I'll never get this part. But I get to go in and act today. I get to read these sides. I get to pretend I am this character. I get to act today. So I really just let go of the whole pressure of this is a big part in a TV show that's probably going to do very well because it's so well written, because I just was convinced I wouldn't get it. And as a result, I had a really good time. I don't remember it. I was getting ready for the audition itself. And when you audition for a movie or a television show, they give you what are called sides, which are just pieces of the show. They're like, a couple of pages in a scene. Sometimes a whole scene, sometimes several scenes, sometimes just parts of a scene. And then you're reading opposite someone who's not an actor. It's usually an assistant in the office that reads with you, and they're terrible. So it's a very strange
That must
process.
be hard, right? When you're trying to give it your all and show so much emotion, and then there's somebody over there just monotone reading across whatever, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's very challenging.
How old were you at this time?
Oh, I'm in my 30s at this point.
Okay.
So I'd had a very full, life, and then I got this opportunity. So, but I'm in the room getting ready for my turn. There was only one other actor, a guy in the room. And this gentleman shows up, stands in the door. He's really kind of a big dude. And he says, in a monotone, very heavy state, he just says, "Patricia Tallman, I wrote the part for you. Good luck." And he leaves. And I'm just, kind of dumbstruck. And the other actor looks up and he goes, "Oh, no pressure, huh?" So I don't really remember the rest of the audition. I was in such shock. Who says that? Who wrote the part for me? What are you talking about? That's absurd. But I did get the part, and all of us in the pilot, nobody knew who we were. Most of us were theater actors, and had a resume. But yeah, so I just think that's kind of how the universe works. The first time I was in front of a camera, I had been doing theater work in New York, and I auditioned for a film and got it. The film was a film by George A. Romero, who is a very famous horror director. Now, I didn't know that too much about him. I knew he had done this zombie film, but I didn't know that he was like best friends with Marty Scorsese, and he had this street cred behind him that was kind of phenomenal. And we did this movie called Night Riders, which was a passion project of his. It was not anything to do with horror. It starred Ed Harris, who was a brand new, up and coming star at the time. But that connection led me to Night of the Living Dead, the color version that Tom Savini directed. And if you're not a horror fan, you won't know these names, and that's fine. But the point I'm trying to make is that I once again kind of fell into my Dark Shadows passion, or my Star Trek passion, that I didn't know this was going to lead me into the horror genre, and that I would end up in these cult classics.
Yeah,
that just happened. But I think that's how it works. If you are, if you're following the path and you're in the flow, then it brings to you something very special. So that is kind of what I'm trying to do today, is help people find that for themselves.
Right.
Anyway, that's the leading me into Babylon 5. I had already been doing a lot of stunt work on Star Trek, and once again, I had met the stunt coordinator on Star Trek via some very nice people, and he just thought I was a really good height and size to double a lot of the actresses he needed to double on Star Trek. So he tried me out, and we got along great. And then I became a regular stunt double on those shows, Deep Space Nine, Next Generation, and Voyager, which was just such an incredible experience. Really incredible.
What were some of the stunts that you would do?
Mostly on the Star Treks, because you're on ships, you're doing things like you're throwing yourself around because the ship is being bombed, or you're in a fight scene, which I love. I love fight scenes. It's one of my favorite things to do. So every once in a while, we might get something a little different, a bit of more of a high fall or something like that. But usually it had to do with those kinds of things. You step on something and explode, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Lots of fights. We worked with the props department and helped develop weaponry that the other alien races were using, like the Klingons and their fighting Beklefs and things like that. We were part of the team that developed those, which was really fun. So we would get stuff from the prop department. We'd get these weird shaped metal, whatever they were supposed to be, whether it was a knife or a sword kind of thing. And then we would go work with it and try to figure a fighting style out. And then we would teach that to the lead actors who were going to be doing that, like Michael Dorn as Worf, and in my case, Terry Farrell, who was it ended up using in some Deep Space Nine storylines, ended up using those weapons. Yeah, it was really fun. And I was able to double Nana Visitor, who did a lot of fight scenes, and she's a dancer. So she's very, very good in her body and can make a fight scene look great. But she was generous enough to make sure that I took over when the camera was not on her face, on her back, because that meant that I would then get a residual for that episode, which means that you're a SAG performer, Screen Actors Guild performer. Some people are also SAG. And if you are on camera, you are then in the pool to get residuals when those shows are resold, and of course all the Star Trek shows are sold over and over and over and over again to different markets.
Right.
Constantly keeping up. So that's a really important piece of our livelihood, is that we get a little tiny chunk of change every time that thing is shown, and it adds up.
It does add up.
It goes towards your pension and your health plan, and that's really important.
And tell us about as far as your stunt work. Did you have like a coach that you would work with? I mean, would you train? I mean, how difficult was that to like stay in shape? I mean, because back then and today it's totally different.
Yeah. Oh, you're so right.
Back then, I was a big athlete in school, high school and college, and we didn't lift weights and we didn't have nutrition plans and supplementation. Right. You just basically went out and practiced, and you hoped that you had some good natural ability. So.
Yeah, you start there. You start with the natural ability. Yeah, we didn't have that technology, did we? We didn't know. We didn't have the nutrition ideas. I mean, I was lucky enough that because stunt people were on the edge of that, and we worked out with bodybuilders who were really into trying to figure out the next thing, right? Because their livelihood depended on it. It's without taking steroids, what do you do to get strong? Mm-hmm. So I was lucky enough to be in and around people that were talking about that. And right. I was also a martial artist.
Oh, wow.
So so that helped a lot. And street fight styles and being able to know where your body is when you're upside down and all of that. We call it when you're in the air. When you're in the air, you need to know where you are. And most people don't, because you're just flying through the air. But a stunt person, a martial artist, these people that use gymnasts, we all know where we are. Upside down, inside out, we know where we are that you have to. Because I have to land and hit a spot where the camera knows I'm going to land.
Absolutely.
It's just a lot of concentration and visualization. But so I love that. I love the physicality, and I love the working out. And you found people that were doing it, and then you help motivate each other, and staying in shape. For me, the biggest challenge is that I'm basically a very curvy woman, and my actresses often are starved sticks. They are. Laura Dern, for example. Laura really is just this slender person. She's naturally very slender, and then I'm sure she takes care of herself on top of that. But she wore a size 4 shorts in Jurrasic Park, and they took them in. They customized them smaller for her because she's so teeny, and I had to fit in those shorts. So. And if you want to put pads on, well, forget it. Try to wear some protective gear. It was pretty gnarly, especially in those days. They just, we're talking 80s, 90s, and women were supposed to be teensy, and there's no zippers in space. There's no nipples in space, evidently, or buttons or glasses. So you had to be just this, built Barbie doll.
Right.
Inside your wardrobe. And that was the biggest challenge for me, was maintaining a stick figure when my body was like, fuck no, we have hips. We got tits.
Yeah. What about injuries? I mean, you obviously sustained injuries.
Yeah.
What are some of your worst falls?
No, I've broken a lot of things. I did break my back twice. And when I started, it was before CGI and all the special effects where, now you can do some really amazing things and not really be about to perish, which is nice. I think it's a good thing. And then there's the evil Knievels like Tom Cruise, who wants to do those sort of things. And that's up to him. That's his life. He gets to do that stuff. But when we were doing it in my heyday, there was no No special effects. The best they could do was to paint out wires. So if you were doing a descender or something like that, which is a high fall on a wire, they could paint it out later. And once the computer technology came through for shows like Jurrasic Park, and they were developing that changed a lot of things too. Jurrasic Park was one of my harder jobs, though. That and Long Kiss Goodnight.
Yeah, I saw the movie, so I definitely realized that probably was super hard. Yeah, sure.
It was hard for a couple of reasons. So it may not be because it was the biggest fall. It was because I couldn't wear pads because Laura's the babe and she's in shorts and a tank top, right? And so there's no place to put anything that's protective, no elbows and knees and back. And we were, for example, that scene at the end of the first Jurassic Park where they're coming down some scaffolding, they're trying to escape the raptors, which are after them, and they end up in the rotunda, and they all climb out onto dinosaur bones. So this was really hard. Ridiculous to try to even explain it. I'm on these bones trying to get around. Now, the bones are suspended from the ceiling in a museum type space on wires, right? I have to negotiate. I'm trying to get away at speed from a nemesis, and I'm scooting around wires. Nobody else had to do this. Everybody else kind of crunched up into balls elsewhere. But Laura's character had to run out along the spine of this, I think it was a brontosaurus, and all the way to the neck and heads of it, which was a lot when you're talking about running along vertebrae. Mm-hmm. And the vertebrae, even though this was a cast, made up skeleton, it was still sharp, if you will. It was really sharp. And I had to somehow be able to scoot around these wires, continue on unsupported without any balancing.
I have to go back and watch it now.
Oh, it was crazy. And then the bones all start to break apart, and I grab onto the neck, and which stays suspended because it's suspended by two wires, and then falls to the ground, about 12 feet or whatever it was, on my back. It was gnarly. I ended up so badly bruised from it that the special effects department came in to take pictures of my bruises because they said, we've never seen bruises as bad on a live person.
Wow.
For reference. They wanted it for reference. I wish I had those pictures. I got to tell you.
Wow.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah. But, and so, those, you don't expect that stunt to be that hard and that scary. But if you think of a car crash or jumping off a cliff or getting exploded in fire, those are all obviously big, scary stunts. But stunt work can be small things, flipping over in a chair. I played an old woman in a wheelchair. I had 4.5 hours worth of makeup to get into this costume. And then they pushed me down some stairs. You don't know what the gag's going to be and how weird it's going to be. Running along the side of a building on a ledge, or it's never what you think. It's like, what is it going to be?
That must be like you're getting ready to go down the stairs in this wheelchair, thinking, okay, how am I going to end up? I mean, it's just wow.
We worked it out. Yeah, you work it out best you can. You gotta know where that chair is going to go. And you plan it best you can. That the actor who, do you remember the Mission Impossible TV show?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Do you remember the guy that played the strongman? His name was Peter Lupin. His real name, Peter Lupin. Okay. And he played the strong guy. He was a big guy, always running around behind Peter Graves. Anyway, he plays this orderly, this evil orderly, and he shoved my chair down the stairs. but he had to know exactly how hard to push it. And we sorted it all out to figuring out, okay, how is this chair? How do we think the chair is going to? I even threw the chair down the stairs a few times. See, what does the chair do?
Right.
And then where do we think it's going to land? Because I don't want it landing on me. Yeah. Right. So we want that chair to maybe go first. So I'm going to tuck and roll. That chair is going to go over me and keep going. And then I'm going to roll down the stairs on my own reconnaissance.
Right.
And hopefully not land on it, because that would be painful too. Right. So these are the fun things. I mean, I find that really fun and interesting to figure out.
That's incredible. How do you prepare for a new role or a character? I mean, if you're in a specific genre, especially too, I mean, is it kind of like the same path, or do you have to specifically think, okay, I'm going down a different path and I need to have a different mindset? Or
yeah, I love that part too. I think most actors do have some sort of psychology fix, because you do make up whatever. My acting teacher, his name was Charles Nelson Riley, and he used to say, the writer puts the black on the page.
The Charles Nelson Riley?
Yes.
Yeah.
Most amazing man. And the actor's job is to fill in all the whites on the page. Mm-hmm. So anything the writer doesn't give you in the story, you make up best you can to make sense out of what's going on in the script. So that's when you get to make up your backstory. How did I end up being the person that's in this situation? And how they want me to react. And how, and then you just let it go, and you hopefully create something foundationally so real for yourself that you can be surprised by where you go in a scene or in a play, because it just takes over and you become that person. Right. That's a joy. That's a real joy.
Right.
So doing that work is I call it Sherlocking the script. You just get a chance to be somebody new every time. And for someone like me who doesn't want to do that, that was way better than being myself. And then, and you get to have all these different lives. Really cool. It's a cool thing to be able to do. But we learned that in school. I learned that as a trained actor. And I always tell young actors, that it's important to stay in school. It's important to study. It's important to read all the classics. It's important to go to the theater and just experience life. Read the newspaper, get out there, because an informed actor makes much more interesting choices and gets out of yourself. I think, it's really important to care about others, to care about other people, to care about the people you're working with. That empathy leads you to being a really wonderful actor in the end. And hopefully a good person. Right? That's a part of acting. You're deeply empathic. You want to care. You want to understand what makes people do what they do, and then you bring that to your work.
Right. That's true. Tell me about also too, I mean, especially with you being playing all these characters, and I'm thinking that you're in the makeup chair for hours on end. How do you maintain your energy and focus during these long rehearsals or these long?
Right. Well, boy, that is such a good question. Now I have a much better sense of how to do that. When I was young, I didn't. And it was harder. So if I were to give advice to anyone wanting to maintain their energy throughout a long day, it would be much different today than what I did when I was younger. I was kind of wild, I loved to get out and go out, and didn't, as often as I should have, think about the consequences of the next day.
We've all done that.
Yeah, we've all done that, and you learn and you grow. And now I know that, like we were talking about earlier before we started, just that how important sleep is. And you don't if you get by on 6-7 hours, that's good for you. I need 8 to 10 hours. I need a lot of sleep, and it's really hard to get good sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I need a lot of sleep because most of it isn't good. And then maybe I'll get a sweet spot of a good 6 hours in there somewhere. That's yay. Good. But then I know I need to move my body. I know I need to eat right. I know I can't do caffeine after 3 p.m. You start to know yourself and know what will keep you going. You need to eat right throughout your day. You just have to take care of your partner, which is your body in this life. And your partner needs something different than you and your brain thinks you need. You have to treat your body like it's your favorite puppy dog or kitty cat. You wouldn't give them chocolate, that could kill a dog. You wouldn't do that. So what are you doing to your body? What are you putting into your body to get you to where you want to go in life? That's right. Where I am. And that's the beauty of being older. We start to realize, yeah, all that shit I did. Okay, fine. I did that. But now I value who I am and my energy and what I'm putting out there. And I'm trying to do that best I can, as well as enjoying my life, of course. You still want to have your good food and you might want to have a glass of wine. You want to do all those things. But, when you're called to, okay, I'm doing this thing tomorrow, you're not going to drink a bottle of wine, mm-hmm. right? That just isn't going to lead to the result that I'm hoping to achieve. When back in the day, I'd focus really, really, really hard on my script. And some people with the old-fashioned headphones and Walkmans and things like that to stay focused. I never enjoyed being in a makeup chair. I didn't like it. I don't like being fussed over. I don't like shit on my face. But I also really valued that they made me look good.
Oh, yeah.
So I was super kind about it. I know people that are not kind. But I was always very grateful. And I can honestly say I never took it for granted that I would have another job. So I was very appreciative. I've never been the pretty one. So I've been kind of the character actor, on the cusp of that. And therefore, I think that was a good thing as far as my let's put it this way. I know beautiful women now who are our age who really struggle with aging. And not that I don't, but I think it's much easier for me because I never was the beauty, so that's good. And I'm sad for women that can't see themselves as more than a pretty face or a great body. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know about you, and you look amazing in your videos. I mean, what I see you putting out there, you look incredible.
Oh, thank you.
For me, it's more of a struggle. Like I said, I'm a bigger girl. I'm curvy. I'm having to embrace that a little more. Going, okay, I don't weigh what I did when I worked on Star Trek, and that's okay. Yeah. And I'm still going out there. I'm still meeting people, and they still, they see me, and I worry about being judged sometimes. Oh, she's 20 pounds heavier than she was. Yes, I am. Yeah, I am. I'm also, 40 years older. There you go.
That's the whole thing. And for me, and that's the beauty of aging, because I think my life just keeps getting better. And, especially, when I hit 50, I mean, I had a big party. When I hit 60, big party, 65, the same thing. And, we've had issues, just like I'm sure you have along the way. I have health issues. I have leukemia. I've had that for 10 years.
Good.
No treatments yet so far. I think it's just because, like you, taking care of myself, taking care of my body, going to homeopathic, doctors, etc. Staying active, exercising, lifting weights. I just think that's the name of the game right now. And I'm taking all of this knowledge that I gained over the first 50 years of my life, and now I'm applying it to the second chapter or the best chapter, because that's the goal, right? It's like, this should be the best chapter. I mean, so many people that I know who retire and they're stuck on the couch, or they're stuck, just because they didn't ever took care of themselves. When I want to be like you, moving
Mm-hmm.
around the world and spending a month here and a month there and enjoying life and sharing your life with others and helping others, show that they have just as much value as anybody else. So I think what you're doing
I
is great.
Oh, I love what you just said. Like the best chapter of your life is right now.
Yeah.
Whatever chapter you're in, that's the best chapter. It's the
Mhm.
chapter you're in. And so taking care of your body the way you're doing, you're such an inspiration for people. And that look, you can have a diagnosis and you can still take care of yourself
Mhm.
and hopefully make it better all the way till we shuffle off these mortal coils.
It is. And I think what you said earlier too, I love, because when you mentioned about the universe, back in 2008, 2009, one of my hobbies is wine. I'm a certified wine specialist. And
Oh,
I took a leave of absence from work because that's when the recession hit. And so I
right.
was a flight attendant then, and they were like laying off people. So I just took a leave and I moved out to Oregon and I worked in a vineyard for 2 years making wine.
Oh.
And
Hmm?
when I made that decision, doors just started opening left and right. Like, I'm like, where am I going to live? And all of a sudden, I had somebody say, well, I know this lady and she has an apartment, for rent in her house. And I'm like, oh my God. So it was just like that, it kind of gave me chills when you said that, because that is so
Yeah,
true. Because sometimes you fight the universe so hard and it's like it knows what's best. And then
it
when
does.
you open up that peripheral vision and just let the universe come in and speak to you, when you finally find your path, all of a sudden the doors just start opening. And I just think what you said earlier, I was like, oh my God, this sounds just like what I went through when I was back in 2008, 2009. So, and you can
Oh,
experience that in your 50s, 60s, 70s. Some of these women that I interview on this podcast are world champion track athletes. And, I'm a track athlete also. So when I go to the nationals last summer and I see these 90-year-old women running down the track, running over hurdles, long jumping,
my God.
pole vaulting, it's just like unbelievable. So that's why I'm
So
like,
awesome.
the second chapter of your life, you take all that first 50 years and then you accumulate all that information and then you apply it. And that's what,
Yeah.
like, the best,
Oh,
the best
wow.
of the rest.
I, I, I'm just going to keep following you and stay inspired. I feel like I'm a late bloomer. I really I had to have a crisis before I really stopped and took a look. About 2011, excuse me, 2012 in there, I had what I call a nervous breakdown. It turned out to, back in the day, that's what we would call it, kind of a psychotic break. And it created this massive shift. After I started to recover from that, I realized I know nothing. I know nothing. And I became super teachable, which I think saved my ass. And I started to learn more and more and more about personal development and the connection to something greater than ourselves, whether that's your community, your family. For me, I call it the universe, just trying to, and I still struggle with that, staying connected, finding my flow, thinking I need to do all the work instead of allowing maybe some assistance to come in, trusting is hard for me. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking everything that I tried and learned over the past 12 years and sharing that with my community. I call it the magical living community, because when you're in that flow, it feels like magic. Like you said, the apartment appears, doors open.
Mhm.
And instead of feeling like you're banging your head against the wall and believing all of these negative things about yourself, you start to be able to learn how to shift that, let things go, and see what comes in that's new. And that's I mean, it happens faster than you think. You don't have to be perfect. as soon as you become willing, shit starts to happen. And that's what I'm sharing. I'm doing a Comic-Con in Australia, starting Saturday, doing a series of 4 Comic-Cons over the next couple months.
Are you dressing up in costume?
Oh no, we don't do that. We don't do that. Like Galaxy Quest.
Yeah.
I love that movie, but we don't do that. If you go and you talk to people, you get on stage, you answer questions, things like that. But I always love to bring it back around to personal development. I try to slip that in, to help people, give them, if they're in a place where they're searching, I hope that I can drop a seed in, that will help them, and then carry them a little bit further, because I didn't know where to go or where to start. And I wished I had somebody to talk to that really got it. I did find that eventually, but yeah, I want to make it easier for people, because there can be a gap in between finding someone to help you and when you're in the crisis.
Right.
So yeah, just let people know, no, you're okay, and maybe that crisis is a good thing. Well, maybe it means that to put down all that armor.
I agree, again, because I went through a horrible divorce like over 30 years ago. And if it wasn't for me going through that, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I look back thinking, what a horrible time. But I actually am so grateful to my ex-husband, who was a total asshole.
Right.
If it wasn't for him being the way he was, then I wouldn't be where I am today.
There
So,
you go.
I just think it's all about reinvention. You continue each decade and you continue to reinvent yourself. And we all go through dark times. And so, through these dark times, we learn, and then we reinvent, and then we come out like, kind of like a caterpillar and a butterfly, So I just really think, and especially you as an actress, going through all these different shows, you're accumulating all this knowledge, show after show after show. It's just like anything that you do, you become an expert in. And so you probably have so much knowledge and to give people that I just think that's when you go and do these Comic-Cons, or when you have this community and you can talk about things that are interesting to people and then bring in your own twist on it, and it kind of like little life lessons, people are going to listen to that because you've already drawn them in. And I just think that, what you've done as far as your acting career, and then everything that you've done for your stunts, I think it's amazing. Because I'm sure there's a lot of unpredictable things that happen during the course of your life, especially probably on set, where something would happen and you'd have to,
it's mostly unpredictable.
Well, especially with doing stunts, you were probably having to improvise like all the time, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. With stunts, what you do is you plan, you visualize and visualize and visualize. I didn't realize that was a superpower. Now I know it is, but that's how we would get through things safely. And then shit goes wrong in the middle of it. But because you have visualized an outcome, because you have visualized a safe outcome, it's amazing the magic that happens in your body and in your teammates' bodies, that we all have programmed ourselves to have a safe outcome. So there's things that happen so fast that you can't think and then react. You just have to let your body react. It just does.
Right.
And you end up in a safe outcome because you planned it so thoroughly. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't accidents and things don't go wrong. They do, because there's other things, other forces we can't control. But as a career, doing this daily, the fact that most of us are still walking around okay is a testament to that kind of preparation and using your mind and trusting your body. It does take an enormous amount of focus that I don't think most people normally do, and for a long period of time. So it's a challenge. People think you just go into stunts and you flip around and you have this fun time, but it's so much mental work as well.
Oh, so much.
I wanted to ask you, in your experience, when I encounter people who feel very stuck. they're stuck in their life, or they're stuck in not knowing what's the next right thing. And I have my ways of trying to help people get unstuck. But what do you do, or do you have a piece of advice for people who, any stage of life, 20 something, 30 something, 50 something, when they're feeling stuck? What have you tried something that always works for you?
Yeah, and I think the best thing, and I say this a lot, is that I think that we get stuck because we get like stuck in a routine, and we get stuck in everyday life, and everything all of a sudden we start becoming stagnant, and then everything is monotonous, and it's like Groundhog Day, over and over and over. And my advice is that, we all have things that we enjoy. We all have things that we like. And when I go through these stuck periods, I find myself, okay, I have to reach out to my community. I have to reach out to my like-minded bodybuilders, because I compete in bodybuilding shows, and I need to reach out to them, and I need help. I am in this. I'm in this place, and I need you to physically, help me, get past this hurdle, and it works. So, I mean, it's hard to try to get unstuck by yourself.
Yeah.
The whole thing about mindset, as far as, having an open mindset and fixed, there's so many people out there who have this fixed mindset. They've got these blinders on, and they only see this straight and narrow path. And that's really, really hard. And a lot of times when you're able to open up the blinders to a bigger peripheral vision where they can see more. And health is a great example. So many people in today's society are overweight, they're out of shape, and they wake up feeling bad, and they feel bad all day long because that's all they know. But I do online fitness and nutrition coaching, and every single one of my clients, most women don't eat enough food. And I'm probably not telling you anything that you don't know. Most women don't eat enough protein. And once we get them on a better diet and more protein, and then working out, all of a sudden they have all this energy, and all of a sudden they feel so much better. And all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, I have all this energy and I feel so much better. And then they start losing weight, and then people start complimenting them, and their husbands are happy. And it's just this kind of snowball effect. So I really think that community, and you have a community. And so they're looking at you, because I have people that I follow too, and I have people that I, look up to, and I am inspired by them also. So when you're down and out, I think you need to reach out to your friends, to your community, to help you get unstuck, because sometimes we're in that fixed mindset and we can't get out.
Yes. I totally agree. I think that's part of what was going on with me 12 years ago, is that I was in a fixed mindset and I didn't know it. I think a lot of us end up there because it's a survival thing. You learn throughout the decades what you think you need to know and do to survive. And you may not realize that's how you're thinking of it: getting a job, paying the bills, staying somewhat entertained, finding a mate. And you think, you learn all these things, and you start to program your brain. You don't even know you're creating these patterns in your brain. And then before you know it, you're trapped, because you have forgotten, going back to our first topic, creativity, play, getting back to what you love and
joy,
what turns you on. Joy.
Yes.
Yeah, we stop. And we talk about this. I think a lot of people talk about this a lot. And that you lose your childhood sense of joy and play because you have to take responsibility, especially when you start raising children and you start, trying to really compete in a marketplace. That's understandable. But now we're here. We're here. These two ladies are here right now telling you that is your ticket to life, is what brings you, what brightens your moment, what brings you a spark. And it may not feel like joy yet. It may not feel like, outrageous happiness yet, but it is your path. It is, I think it's really important to remember that you have so specifically learned that your health has to be paramount, and your routines around your health have to be paramount in order for you to thrive right now. And I would argue that that's always the case. Your health has to be paramount. We don't think about that when we're 20 and 30 because we just have this random healthiness, kind of, we can do terrible things to ourselves and still get up the next day and go to work. But I can't now. I have to really pay attention to my body and what it's trying to tell me. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that about turning to your community.
Well, it's all about taking that first step, because all of us are in this box and we're so afraid because we're so used to our routine, and we are afraid to go out into the unknown. I mean, and
that's just the brain.
That's starting any new hobby, any new learning, taking like learning a new language. I mean, it can pertain to anything. I mean, you're like scared, like, oh, am I going to do this? Or travel, travel by yourself somewhere. Get in the car and you drive by yourself and go somewhere for a weekend on your own.
Right.
Oh my God, it's like, so it's just
out of a routine.
It's taking that first.
The brain doesn't love that. The brain is just wired to keep us from making changes because it's so ancient. The brain, it still remembers the days when we were prey.
Yeah.
And not predators, and it's trying to keep us safe. I call it the fear dragon. It just wants to keep us safe in our cave. So if you just understand, and maybe if that's what we can leave you with today, that your brain is designed to be negative to keep you safe. It's trying to help. It's nothing to fight. It's nothing to argue about. It's just saying, oh, okay, got it. You're just trying to keep me safe. Thanks. You can get in the back seat now because I'm going to drive to this B&B over the weekend by myself and have a good time. I'm just going to do that. Just know your brain's trying to keep you safe and do the thing anyway.
That's so true. We've been talking like almost an hour. This has been amazing. Any final, let me ask you one more question. Your personal life and the demands of being an actor.
I'm sorry, glitched there. What did you say?
Your personal life and the demands of being an actor. I mean, how do you make them mesh?
Well, I didn't do it very well. I really didn't. I didn't stay with a partner for very long. I wasn't interested, and I would try it for a while and then leave. It's not for me. I had a child, which changed everything because obviously the child has to come first, and he was first for me. Just an amazing kid. And that slowed me down and started me thinking about things. That's what got me out of stunts eventually, was that I couldn't come home injured. I couldn't come home exhausted and hurt. It didn't work. And then leaving in a moment's notice, because sometimes that happens too. So it really did start to, I realized I'm not going to do this. I'm a single mom, and if something happens to me, what's going to happen to him? It's not fair. So but I didn't know what else to do, and acting jobs are pretty random, I was getting older and Hollywood hates people in their 40s. So it's really tough. It's all true, guys, about that, the ageism in Hollywood. It's still there too, big time. Women are, you're allowed to only be a certain thing. And then there's a lot of pushback. Thank God for shows now showing real women in real sizes in real situations. I love that so much. I'm very grateful. But it didn't happen in my day. So personal life, I finally met my best friend. We've been friends since 1975. And we'd seen each other over the years at parties because we stayed friends with our college friends. But we didn't ever date until the end of 2018. And we've been together ever since. She's like my best friend. And we travel, we live in hotel rooms in small places. We both scuba dive. It's kind of freaky how compatible we are. And he had a daughter with someone he didn't marry. And I had a son with someone I didn't marry at the same time. But he was in Seattle and I was in Los Angeles. So our kids are the same age, about 9 months apart. And yeah, we are just so blessed. Now I have a personal life, and it has been challenging. And so, by the way, so kids, I didn't get married till I was 65. 65. It can happen. If that's your thing and that's your jam and you want to do that, that can happen. But yeah, so I find I don't meet my soulmate, or didn't hook up with my soulmate until I was 65. So yeah, I would just say for personal life and acting, admire those that are trying for it and support them on it. I get so sick of seeing people tear down people for their dating, or their giving people a hard time for who their spouses are. I mean, they're trying. It's none of your fucking business. Just leave them alone.
Right.
It's hard. It's a hard business.
Yeah.
A part of what's so hard about being an actor, I think, is that we think about ourselves. This is why I keep saying about empathy and reaching out and really being interested in other people to make yourself a good actor. Because you're not selling encyclopedias or soap. You're selling yourself. And it's really damaging if you're not completely aware. Most of us are not when we're first starting as actors.
Right.
So in a personal life, that's pretty devastating. Luckily, I had a kid. He probably saved my life. My therapist says he saved my life. He made me slow down. He made me stop, being so reckless and try to figure it out. Now, I feel bad because I feel like he paid for that. I was so inexperienced when it came to being responsible for another human being.
Right.
But he's an amazing guy. So I guess he turned out okay. He survived me.
He survived.
And I feel like I'm learning a lot about being a really good partner. A lot of that's already been in me, but now coming up against it day after day has been a learning experience for both of us. But we're doing great. We have moments when we realize, okay, we need a little space. We gotta get us.
Yeah.
Time for us to have an afternoon off. But that's about it. It's really remarkable. I've been doing this for so long. I hope that answered your question.
It did. I want to talk about you have a passion. You're a leading fundraiser for Penny Lane, and that's abused children in California.
Thank you, Helen. That's so sweet of you to bring that up. Yeah, I've been working with them for like 30 years or so now, and I cannot express how remarkable this organization is. And there's probably an organization also remarkable in your town, but Penny Lane is in my town. They've led programs for helping kids. They share these programs throughout the world because they're groundbreaking and what they've been able to do and how they've been able to help these kids. They started off with kids. This all started by a woman in the 60s, by the way, back in the 1960s. And she was a parole officer. Mm-hmm. And she saw all these girls falling through the cracks in the system, right? They're really young, getting into every kind of horrible situation you can imagine. And so she pounded the pavement and created Penny Lane, but she got a building and put 50 beds in it, 50 cots, and got all these runaways and these stray girls in. She got a community of caregivers together, and they tried to keep these 50 girls safe, and off the streets. And that's how it started. She's been doing that ever since. She's in ill health as we speak. But her name is Eve Markovitz, and she's just been a hero of mine since I met her. We serve thousands of kids now, thousands of kids and families, and helping them in all different situations, whether the kid doesn't have a home and their parents are incarcerated or have abused them so badly they can't be placed in regular foster care. So there's special places for those kids, all the way through adoption processes. So there's everything in there. And they serve the community and where the Penny Lane homes are. Meaning, if you live nearby a Penny Lane home, they will invite you over for barbecues. They will help you find food if you need it. They're just remarkable. So I don't know how I couldn't help them. So that's what I do. And the reason I do it, the reason I can continue to do it is because the fans have been supporting me doing this for 30 years. They have sent in $5, $5,000, everything in between. They just send in gifts, they send in money, and we make that happen together. We keep doing it year after year.
Oh, that's amazing.
So thank you very, very much for asking. And if people follow my socials, you'll see me start to fundraise around October. Typically, we fundraise throughout the end of the year. Yeah, and we provide the holiday for the kids, but the money goes all year round.
And tell us about your book, Pleasure Thresholds.
I love the title of it. It's so kind of provocative, but really it's just a line that my character says. And so, in the beginning of Babylon 5, this alien character wants to mate with me, my character, because I have telepathic genes and his people don't have them. And he asks me, and we can find out what your pleasure threshold is, right? So it's very funny because he's like a lizard guy, and who would mate with that guy? At the end of the series, 6 years later, I say to him, his character, now we're older, we've been through this 5-year arc in this series, and I say to him, I finally found out what my pleasure threshold is. And so when I came to write the book about my time, those 5 years on Babylon 5, I called it Pleasure Threshold. So that explains the title. But it's also, there's a bunch of other things just about being an actor in it. Life as an actor, what I was paid. I put my contracts in there so you can see this is what a regular actor makes. It's not what people think, obviously. Raising a kid, going to conventions. It's just stories about being an actor. And in the book are 350 some odd photographs that I took from behind the scenes of mostly Babylon 5, but other things too. And they're all from my camera.
Oh, that's great.
So it's kind of a scrapbook,
Well, it sounds very personal too. If you're taking pictures.
Very personal. Yeah, very personal.
And then your quest retreats.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was telling you about with the New Zealand trip, because I'm a massive nerd, and I have to be excited about it. Otherwise, I'm not going to plan it. These trips take me they can take me a couple of years to plan and to get all the details right. And then it takes me like 9 months to a year to market it. But I've led trips to Hawaii and London. We did a whole Harry Potter thing, did a bunch of behind the scenes at Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings, and Africa. Africa was my biggest trip. And that has nothing to do with any genre. That was just Africa is amazing. I wanted to do that. I'm getting ready. I'm going back to New Zealand. I want to do another New Zealand trip. And I've also got Scotland on the boards. I love Scotland. I'm trying to figure out how to do it in the way that makes it really magical. So, yeah. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. And so if people want to find you on social media or follow you or reach out to you, how can they find you?
Patricia Tallman. You'll find me that way, all different ways. But Patricia Tallman on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Yeah, it'll show up. I appreciate it. I'd love to have the follows. The great thing about, as you know, with the algorithms, and if you like and follow somebody's posts, it boosts us in the algorithm of Meta or Twitter, and that helps us then to reach other people that might benefit from our messaging. So we, Helen and I, we would really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Liked, commented, shared, that all helps us so much.
That's great. Well, Pat, it's been a joy talking to you. And thank you so
Likewise.
much, especially with you being in Australia. That's just, and you just got there.
I'm so confused with the time changes, but thank you for bearing with me. I feel like I've met a new friend, and I'll be in touch. Touch because
I hope so.
You're somebody very special, and I want to stay in your life.
Well, and you're a redhead too, so us redheads have to stick together.
It's fading fast.
Anyway, have a wonderful time in Australia, and I will definitely be following you too. And take care.
Thank you too.
What a fun conversation I had with Pat, and I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Just simply fascinating to hear about her life as an actress and stunt woman, considering back then so many of the jobs that she had where she was not able to use any type of padding or support to help her during these stunt scenes is overwhelming. I also think it's really admirable to hear her talk about life outside of work, raising and supporting a child, trying to perfect her craft as an actress and stunt performer, and like so many of us, seeing that light bulb finally go off where you finally get it. You realize that your ticket to life is your joy, and you need to figure out what brightens that spark. Pat talked about becoming teachable. I think we can all relate to that. When you finally allow yourself to be vulnerable and learn from the past to improve the future. Becoming teachable in order to optimize the best that you have to give. She talks about her dark times, and in those times, she reinvented herself. If you could see me right now, I'm raising my hand because I can so relate to this. If it wasn't for the dark times in my life, I wouldn't be where I am today. I look back and don't even recognize who that person was. Who else can relate to that? Her most recent work is helping people release their inner badass by leading epic quests and trips to live their dreams and adventure and creativity. We are all resilient. We just need to tap into the right mindset. It can take a lot of work through adversity, persistent setbacks, or the consistent life challenges thrown our way, but we can do it. We talked about community, and Pat has a great community that helps her flourish in life on a daily basis. Studies have shown that people we spend time with have a tremendous impact on our moods, our attitudes, and our behaviors. So find that inner badass that is waiting to be released. Find that community of like-minded people that will support you in your endeavors and dreams. Thanks, Pat, for being a badass. Women like you lead the way to prove to the world that women are strong, resilient, tough, undefeatable, confident, motivational, and inspirational women. Continue to carry that torch for the world to see. You definitely shine bright. Now, if you'd like to reach out to Pat, you can find her on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Patricia Tallman, and that's Tallman. If you're interested in one of her retreats, you can go to www.questretreats.com. You can find her book called Pleasure Thresholds, Patricia Tallman's Babylon 5 Memoirs on Amazon. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can find me at helen@ageisirrelevant.com, or you can go to my website, www.ageisirrelevant.com, to listen to the other 99 episodes of Amazing Women. And until next time, age truly is irrelevant. Bye-bye.